Sensitivity is intelligence. With grace and skill, you have abundance. Welcome to the Psychic Hour. Host Kelly Brickle is a psychic medium healer, numerologist, and teacher. Her passions are learning about the soul and energy. Whether it's through spirit, emotion, or vibrational numbers, there's always a pathway of information waiting to help. Now, here is your host of the Psychic Hour, Kelly Brickle.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to WLTK-DB's The Psychic Hour with me, Kelly Brickle. Hi. It's great to see everyone again, and we're doing the interview series today, and we have Deidre Sanford on, and it's going to be a hybrid show. So we're going to be doing some interview, and we're going to be doing readings at the end. So I always say pop down your question if you have something that you'd like to dive into. We also, throughout the show, take questions about psychic development, experiences, energy, and that's just the flavor of this show. There's so much in the world of energy. There's so much in the world of developing our senses in a capacity that the world has never taught us to. You know, we didn't go to school and learn how to be clairvoyant, maybe. There's schools out there, don't get me wrong. But growing up, we just didn't have that understanding per se, unless we had someone really special in our lives leading the way. And then, you know, we go out into the world and we find people who are out there sprinkled across, the world. And we go, hey, I feel connection with you or the way that you teach. Can you show me how you do the things that you do, especially if they're just living by example, right? And they are sharing who they are. And you go, wow, I want to be that. I want to learn that. I want to do that. And that's why I always advocate for teachers or people within this work who are authentic and share and just have so much skill and talent with what they do. They're worth their weight in gold. So I'm always developing and on the path with that aspiration in mind, because that means so much to me that I promote it when I'm sharing my gifts with others. And also I promote that with just the perspective to think when you're developing as your own person within your own spirituality and who you find along the way. So hello to everyone coming in. Hello, Stephanie. Hello, Aspen. Hello, Kevin. It's great to see you. And Aspen is always so sweet. She always gives like these gorgeous comments. She's saying, thanks for creating a space for others to come and share their wisdom and knowledge. Man, I appreciate you too, Aspen. That's really sweet. I really try to, because luckily there's variety. There's beautiful variety that we have. And there's so many people that come forward wanting to share this work, that we do have, wonderful people around us to experience learning about our gifts through. But it's just so important to me, because growing up, you had people on TV or you had people in books, like, think about all the Hay House authors. Hay House was like it is still a huge publishing company, but they specialized in self-help, and they specialized in books about energy, intuition, psychic mediumship, all that stuff. And before that, I don't think, at least in the United States, because every country is so different in sorts, there wasn't like a lot of right, just like ongoing classes, or the few radio shows or podcasts. They were on Hay House, at least the ones that I knew about. And people would come on every week, and there'd just be like, they'd take questions, that have a topic. And it was really important to me when I was, growing up. It still is. Sometimes I find like I don't have, like, I don't, it's funny. That's kind of like the topic of the day. There's times within our life where we're really, really attracted to certain types of energy, right? It's like, oh, I need sound to keep me going, or I need like positive visuals to keep me going, or I need a certain subject that gets me out of bed in the morning, or even a certain person, right? And there's certain energy that I think it's really important. That's why, we have to be conscious of why we're being attracted to certain types of energy. but it helps us. Ultimately, it fulfills a need. And so just to not get too much down the rabbit hole sometimes where your wants take you, but rather where your needs take you. And it will teach you so much about who you are as a soul, who you are as a person in this lifetime, because we all need to grow. That's the whole thing. Like, we all need to grow. The universe is expanding. Maybe it's growing, right? I would imagine it's growing to some capacity in some way, even if it's not conventional with how we understand growth as humans. But we're all growing. And if we're not growing, we're going to feel stunted. We're going to feel stalled. We might feel lonely. We might feel depressed. We might feel anxious. And because there's something about what we're either conscious or subconscious, um, with knowing that we need to develop, we need to find, we need to experience. Um, that's why it's so important. It doesn't have to be conventional. I always preach that. It doesn't have to be conventional, but travel, meet people, take classes, like, even if it's just like paint night, right? Like, you just being out with different types of people, go like, "Oh, wow, like, I'm aware of this personality now, or this story, or wow, I met somebody that I could never meet just sticking around my house, or like sticking to my 9 to 5." Like, my rotation has to be changed up for me to actually change. And you find these wonderful surprises, because it's like, the universe, we always talk about like, oh, the potential of the universe, and I want to manifest. Well, like, think about it. Just like where you live in whatever country that you live, if you want to manifest, you got to get out there and put your energy out there. And yes, like, your words and your mind, that's powerful, but we live in a physical reality. We just do. And so when you get your body out into the world, your body is a huge antenna. It is. It's like a massive antenna. And you go, "Hey, like, I'm looking for a friend, or I'm looking for a relationship, or I'm looking for, a teacher. I'm looking for a certain skill, or, a fur baby. Who knows?" But you put yourself out into the world, and you will become much more of a dynamic super attractor. You will, because you're physically manifesting, you're physically affirming, and it comes with a riper energy. I always feel like, yeah, you can manifest just as powerfully with your mind. I do, but I do think there's sometimes more hiccups unless you really know how to lock in and really connect. That's the whole thing. Like, when you are understanding energy, when you're understanding, who you are and what you need, there's a certain lock in that you feel. You go, hmm, okay, this feels right. It doesn't just feel nice. It doesn't feel something like I'm curious in. This feels right. I'm truly drawn to this. And it's not just a singular feeling, it's a multifaceted feeling. There's just multiple parts of my energy, my body, that find like me gravitating to this point, this situation, this question. And I like to highlight that I know a lot of people, when they're driving in their cars, or when they're just out and about, and they're asking spirit, or they're asking the universe, signs, or God, they, like, they talk to themselves. That's perfectly normal. Um, and they go, "Is this the right job for me? Is this the right person for me? Is this the right um situation? Should I go try this? Should I go try that?" Like, people do that all the time. They do. And and they're sending their energy out into the universe, and they're saying, like, "Universe, give me a sign back." And really, like, if you find yourself asking it, you have this desire, and need to ask it, because you're like, "I need this in my life. I need this in my life." Well, honestly, there's your answer, because the universe and your environment, with what you are co-creating and cohabit habitating, is that a word? Habitating, existing, and what you're getting in your norms, that is transferring back to you and saying, hey, you need more. Hey, you need more. We're going to make you feel more. We're going to, and our soul is so expressive and communicative with the conditions we have around us and the people we have around us. So if you find yourself calling and asking, should I be doing this? Should I be doing this? Should I be doing this? I really want you to look in, is it a want? Is it a desire? Or is it a need? What part of the desire and want is a need? Or what part of the need is going to fulfill you? And understand the essence of that, the root of, why do I need this so bad? Why do I want this so bad? And if you find yourself going back to the needs and they're nourishing and they're positive and they're soul growing, then a lot of times your answer is yes, go out and make it happen. So yeah, I think it's important. So maybe next show, we'll get more into like manifestation and like there's this interesting magnetic and electric energy that happens when you're manifesting or when you meet people, and that's always so fun to talk about. That's how you find kindred souls, your soul group, or just you know these moments that align that you feel so present in and so powerful in. So, with that said, we are going to be diving into having our guest on in just a moment with Deidre Sanford. And so, we'll be back and we'll be talking to her. And I'm really excited to see her. So, see you in a few. See you in a few. We will be back. Hello, everybody. And just like that, we are back in a heartbeat. So I want to bring Deidre in and introduce her. Hello. How you doing?
I am well, Kelly. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's great to have you on the show. And I
It's
love
so
that.
fun to be here. I'm so excited.
Yes, there's so much to talk about. Well, instantly I look at you and then I look at that tree behind you and just we were talking about like the energy of growth and the
Yeah.
tree branches extending, and it's just like you have so many like skills and talents that you build and work through in your professional worlds, like root cause therapy, psychic mediumship, healing. And you're going to share things with me that I'm sure I'm like, oh wow, you've been as well. As well. So I want to introduce you to everyone before we begin and dive into the conversation, right? So Deidre Sanford is an energy worker, certified root cause therapy practitioner, and psychic medium. As a practitioner, she combines all of her abilities and training while working with her clients, assisting with healing on the deepest levels. She helps them achieve their goals and establish relationships within themselves that they have previously been able to obtain. So welcome. Yes.
And here we are.
Here we are. So what got you? That's one of my favorite questions to just ask, out of the gate. What led you to becoming an energy worker and a psychic medium? Was it something of great surprise to you at one point where you're like, I guess I'm here? Or did you always, since you were young, have like an interest within people or energy? Or did you like have certain experiences?
I had forgotten about my very first experiences, to be honest. My mom reminded me when I was in my early 30s that when I was 7 years old, we had moved into a new house. And within a couple of weeks, I pulled her aside and I said, hey, You see those people in the dining room? They're not here to hurt anybody. What?
Mm.
So I think that just speaks to something that I think we've all talked about on almost every show to some extent, and that is we're all born with these abilities. They're innately a part of us. And whether it be through society in general or a family that doesn't understand or doesn't support, we lose track of those things that we knew when we came in to our new environment here on this planet Earth. Um, so it was interesting that mom reminded me of that when I was in my 30s. I remember in my early 20s, I would wake up in the middle of the night with an absolute sense that something was wrong, like totally freaked out. I was dog sitting for my biological father, and I called my mom at like 2 o'clock in the morning. What's going on? Is everybody okay? What's wrong? She's like, yeah, everybody's fine. So I think all of us throughout our lives can identify different times when we were glaringly aware that we knew something, we understood something, we saw something that others couldn't really relate to. And I went through some pretty turbulent times. And that's kind of how I landed with energy work. I had a
Yeah.
friend who introduced me to a Reiki master, and I got my Reiki certifications almost 30 years ago. I didn't stay for Reiki master. I just did level 1 and level 2. And then if we fast forward to 2010, my mom passed away, and I saw her the very night she passed away. When I finally went down to the basement to spend some time to myself, she just full on apparition appeared and looked at me
Wow.
like, it's about time you came down here. So I think really, on the path, off the path, on the path, off the path, on the path. Um, I'm back on and
Yeah.
here to stay because short version in 2020, I lost my executive functioning very
Mm.
suddenly. And no one in the medical field can really explain why, except I couldn't find words. I couldn't concentrate on anything. I couldn't do simple tasks like accordion folding a blanket on the foot of the bed.
Oh,
It
wow.
was
Yeah.
crazy. And it was during that time that I stumbled upon root cause therapy.
Mm.
And I had been previously considering, yeah, I want to go public. I want to work with people on a regular full-time basis. And I feel like I need a shingle because to me at the time, it wasn't enough to say, oh, I'm a Reiki master or, oh, I'm a pranic healer. I wanted a shingle. So root cause therapy to me was my door to having what I thought was such an essential shingle piece of, oh, I'm certified. I'm insured. Hey, you know what? That's all great. But really what shines through after the training and all of the information that we gain and when we go through a new program, what really shines through at the essence is all of those things that we study come together to really create what we're doing. So I don't do
So,
healing.
oh,
In fact, I
oh,
got
go ahead.
one time in class because I was giving intuitive information to my client and having a conversation on that. And at that time, it was frowned upon to do that. I can't really separate my energy work from my psychotic, from my psychic information that comes through, and vice versa. I get both at the same time. So it's all me.
Yeah, everything flows together. So you're talking about being on, when you were finding your way to reclaim these parts of yourselves, you
Yes.
were on the path, off the path, on the path, off the path. And so you'd like wake up in the middle of the night and you'd like feel certain things. So did you start to understand, wow, there's parts of myself that I haven't like addressed, and these parts are calling to me. I have to figure out what they are.
I'm well aware of that now. At the time, I was not. I had very little knowledge of any of any of this stuff. Um, it's almost automatic now. If I hear something that goes bump in the house at night, I gotta open up my spidey senses and check and see what's going on. Who's here is often my husband's father, who passed away several years ago. Um, it wasn't automatic then, but it is now.
And it's something that provides comfort. So before
Yeah,
you felt like what is going on, what is going on, and now like as you're on the path, you're just more comforted and feel
yeah,
strong and um at ease. And
absolutely.
absolutely. So one of the places that you really exhibit a lot of your power and passion is the root cause therapy. And can you teach me about that and tell me about that? Because I'm really curious.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. We've all had varied lives. We've all done a lot of different things in our lives. And some of you, Aspen, Courtney, Kevin, you guys kind of heard these stories before, but I'm no different from anyone else, right? We go through our trials and tribulations. You got to have what you got to have to get where you're supposed to be. So I went through active addiction. I went through childhood sexual abuse. I went through toxic relationships and domestic violence. That's really kind of where I lean most when I think of working with my clients in root cause therapy. There are all kinds of other things that we've worked on with that process, with that program, including emotional eating, emotional spending, and getting out of those patterns. But that's really what drew me in, aside from having the shingle, to utilize publicly my psychic abilities and my energy work, is really understanding that even though I went the very Western route to get out of my addiction cycle, to get out of my domestic abuse cycle, I used to actually be an overnight supervisor at a battered women and children's center. But I could hear the TV, right? I'm sitting there at midnight waiting for the hotline to ring and I'm hearing static. Oh, the TV's on. Somebody fell asleep watching TV. And I get up and I'd walk around the shelter and there was no TV.
Mm.
What I learned was that was what people are putting out in their sleep when their guard is down and all their stuff just comes flowing out. So I know that there are more effective ways than Western therapy, which absolutely has its place and has benefited me, to help people change these cycles and get out of these unhelpful patterns that we create for ourselves or that we bring into this lifetime with us.
So what does the template look like when you are utilizing this therapy for people?
It's kind of fun, actually. It's really an exploration. We spend some time talking about your family, your socioeconomic, your medical history, because those things are all so tied together. And then we begin to talk about where your emotions are, a specific set of like 10 emotions. Where are you in those emotional ranges in your current life on a scale of 1 to 10? And that gives us a yardstick by which to measure some of the progress that we make as we go through a program. We do sway testing, which you may or may not be familiar with. It's kinesiology, really. It's
Yeah,
all
I was gonna
movement.
ask, is it like
Yeah.
muscle testing at all? Okay.
Yes. Yes. But we use your body as your gyroscope. So I
Okay,
had a
yes.
client one time who we were going through the limiting belief systems, looking for the ones she wanted to work on, and we tested, I am loved.
Hmm.
And if you're not, if your body really believes, because our body holds the score, right? If your body leans back out of that statement, hmm, something else is going on. If you lean forward, then you really fully are in on the belief internally that you are loved. She fully expected that her body would lean away from the statement, and she leaned forward. Instant tears, because that's the moment the light bulb went off, and she realized, wait, my body's confused. Internally, I'm confused. And at the same time, her father, who is in spirit, appeared over my right shoulder. And I'm like, oh, hello. First time that had happened. So it really incorporates everything. But those limiting belief testing or the sway testing that we go through really is the first light bulb moment in root cause therapy.
Muscle testing is very powerful, and yeah, there's definitely like these mechanisms within it that you can really start to understand
Mhm.
what a person's body is registering. And I think you mentioned something very powerful because you said you were referencing your client, but a lot of people are confused with how their body registers something versus their mind registers something,
Yeah.
or even like on spiritual level. Like, if you could kind of, I guess, talk about it with me about with your experiences too. So I know when someone will ask me like, how do you feel about something? I have a certain internalized way that I feel about things, or I cope with things, or I represent things. And then I find myself, if I say it out loud and someone asks me, I go, oh, wow, like, yeah, I still feel the way I feel, but I'm
Yeah.
aware of all these different aspects now that I've said it out loud, and wow, it feels different when it's acknowledged out loud and my body is
Yeah.
registering different things, and it's quite fascinating. It's so
Yeah.
like, the body's so it's sometimes it's so confused, yes, and other times it's just like there's just so much going on that we
Yeah.
haven't been able to fully process, and it just comes out.
Understood. And when we actually stop and pay attention to our bodies are telling us so much all the time. But we're not taught to pay attention to our bodies really. I mean, my
Right.
mom used to tell us all the
Right.
time, follow your gut. Well, I didn't really understand what that meant at that time. I understand it in a whole different way now. But it's like the beginning of a relationship when you get all those butterflies in your stomach and you think it's all excitement and wonderful things. We might want to stop and re examine that because maybe our tummy is telling us, you might really want to stop and rethink this. Maybe that's nerves. But to
Yeah.
differentiate between those two different energies in our body that show up so similarly is not something that we spend a lot of time educating ourselves and people on in general in our society.
I think that right, there's, like, these little things that will come up sometimes through, like, articles you might read and you go,
Yeah.
That's interesting," or there's, like, psychology, um, more in depth of the brain and body, relationship,
Mhm.
and something that's been talked about kind of a lot, I think a lot more recently. People on average go, you just mentioned it, like, if you have butterflies in your stomach,
Yeah.
that's nerves. It's not like you're like, "Ooh, you're in love," or you're, like, super necessarily positively excited.
It's that
All
heart
these little
expansion that you're looking for, not the butterflies.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Um, so gosh, so what other, if I may ask too, because you're having me curious, what other like kind of classic examples like do you see within people when they're expressing their emotions? Like, do they sometimes run hot or cold, or do they feel dizzy when they're like releasing their emotional energy and understanding how their body processes things?
It's so interesting that you ask that because with root cause therapy, part of what we're doing is somatic releasing. So before we get to that stage of releasing the emotions so that we can see an event with a clearer lens without that emotional clouding, we drop into a meditative state. So everyone responds differently to processing or releasing emotions. Because I'm an energy worker, I tend to flick a lot. And I'll go into my meditative state and we'll be
I love it.
going through an event and they'll say, okay, what emotion are you feeling? And anger. Okay, where is it in your body? And then we bring it all the way up and fill our entire body with that emotion and hold it at the highest level we can get it to and let it come
Mm.
down naturally.
Uh-oh. That sounds intense.
It can be very intense. And sometimes, I'll say, okay, so where would you put that emotion on a scale of 1 to 10? And sometimes people are already at 10 and be like, okay, so let's take it to 20
Oh,
because you're
whoa,
already
whoa,
sitting
whoa.
maxed out. But here's the
Yeah.
thing. Again, we don't always associate our bodies with our emotions, right? So to be able to say, yeah, I'd say that's about a 10, that's another switch. So there's so many levels of learning and processing involved in root cause therapy. Um, I've seen people just tears quietly running down their face. I've seen people sobbing. I've seen other people who do things similar to mine. I'm flicking. It's almost like stimming, right? For autism or AD or for autistic
Mm.
um, folks, when they stim, they get super excited or overstimulated. They got to release that energy somehow. It's still another body energy relationship or
Yeah.
body emotion
Yeah.
relationship.
It really is. That makes sense. Yeah, it's like people, certain people on the spectrum, like with autism, they're more easily stimulated. So it's
Mhm.
interesting how they naturally go, I'm releasing this, I'm releasing
Yeah.
this. And then within society, we might be overstimulated too, but we don't have the the social acceptance sometimes to just be like,
Right.
I gotta release.
Yeah. Oh, it's so funny because one of the things I wrote down as you were doing your intro is let go of expectations, your own perception of self, and the expectations that society puts on you. So while I have a friend who's raising a granddaughter who's on the spectrum, and she puts up videos of different things that her grandchild is going through, and more often than not, with this particular child, she's excited when she's stimming. But one of the things that would happen to me in 2020 when I was going through this process with my brain, and I did actually have physical changes in my brain, um, I couldn't. My brain lost its warning system. When I got overwhelmed, I would know it just because I suddenly had tears rolling down my face. And
Yeah.
I think that's part of where I started to learn to check in with my body. Like, wait, why am I crying? That was like a resounding thing in my life for a while. Why am I crying? Okay, well, figure it out. Get to know your body, get to know your system. And sometimes it was just simply overstimulation from sights, sounds. My vestibular system was off, so I wasn't tethered to anything in space. That's upsetting. And as we pack these emotional things into our systems and tamp them down and tamp them down and tamp them down, we don't do anything really but help them grow and get more deeply seated within us. And then we can't help but perceive anything and everything that's said to us, that we see, that we experience through whatever emotion that is we're trying not to pay attention to.
Yeah, I think a lot of us, and just with how we're just walking through the world, we can't always stop and process.
Hmm.
And it's very, empowering to make time for ourselves because time is so valuable to go, oh, this is bothering me, or I'm aware of this. Okay, let me come back to this within my day. But we have so many distractions around us that a lot of people don't come back or don't
Yeah.
want to come back to emotions. So sometimes when we're just totaled, right? We're just totaled within our
Hmm.
life and we're forced to look at our emotions. Um, we can have experiences where we're like, I don't know why I'm shaking. I don't know why I'm crying.
Right.
And it's like the body is calling to us to reestablish these like neuron links of you need to understand that this is connected to this because every time we send that message to you, you just ignore it because you're surviving,
Hmm. Yep. Your body's like, we keep trying to draw your attention to this, but we're
Right.
so busy, as you say, surviving or just simply functioning.
Right.
We don't realize that all is going on under there. So taking the time to really focus on what am I feeling? Where am I feeling it? What emotion is it? That's half the battle for us, just in daily life, let alone in trying to get a clearer picture of an event that has influenced our lives from maybe childhood, maybe in the womb, or maybe a past life.
So, with understanding this, like through your health struggles and through your spiritual
Mhm.
developments, um, when you started doing energy work with people, um, with various modalities,
Mhm.
I'm sure you had experiences where you're like, wow, not only am I a sensitive person now, but
Yeah.
now I'm uptaking all this additional energy. And so now I have to release even more.
Yep. Yep.
Wasn't that a trip? Wasn't
That
that fun?
happens to me. In fact, today, you already know I was at the emergency room with a close friend of mine today. We call her my sister from another mister. And they had just given her a morphine injection through her IV. And I'm sitting in the room, and all of a sudden, I'm flushing and my chest is beating and my stomach is a little upset. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. What just happened to me? I don't understand. Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
I need to put my shields
yeah,
up because I'm absorbing
yeah.
what's happening in my environment.
Totally,
Yeah.
totally. No, that's
So
a
I use salt baths a lot. It's like my favorite thing in the world. If I can't sleep, I'll get out of bed at 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning, run a salt bath, change my sheets, go back to bed. I'm out like a light. Why am I changing my
I
sheets?
believe it.
Because of all of the energy that's collected
Wow,
in that
wow, yeah,
area. Um, so
it's
salt
true.
baths, washing my hands with salt, and pranic healers are taught to keep spray bottles on hand. Because, some of us, if a lot of energy workers, we don't at first realize we need to make sure we're not collecting the stuff that we're taking from other people. And we end up with arthritis and wrist tendonitis and all kinds of stuff. So we're taught
Again,
to keep a spray bottle with salt water and, I don't know, lavender and alcohol. We used to use vodka, and spray our hands off and make sure that we're not absorbing those energies from other people. The bubble up is always a good thing.
yeah, we share energy all the
Mhm.
time with people, and if we've opened up this capacity within inside of ourselves, it becomes even more intense. And it is a thing. It does have to be quite intense vibration to take on it within our body,
Yeah.
right? But it is a thing. And even like generationally, like we find ourselves, I know that I found myself, I'm curious if you've ever felt the sensation that sometimes just the way that I'm sitting, holding my body, or saying my words, I go,
Oh,
"Oh, this feels like the energy of this relative or that relative," and
yeah.
I just kind of shake it off because I'm just like, I'd rather be more flexible than
Yeah.
just assuming a certain pattern because it was just, I don't know,
Right.
there.
Well, it's not only just there in your environment with exposure to people or family members when you're at gatherings, etc. But when we stop and think about women specifically, I'm sure there's something similar for men too. It applies to everyone, but most specifically applies to women in the respect that women are born with all of the eggs they're ever going to have in their lifetime.
Hmm. Yep, those
Weird
eggs.
fact, right? We're born, yeah. So they're all there. Well, but what material did we utilize to make those eggs as we were growing? Our mom's DNA. Well, what's in our mom's DNA? Our grandma's DNA and our grandpa's DNA, and back and back and back and back. So some of these behaviors, thought patterns, fears, addiction cycles, um, stresses, worries, those are things that are actually passed down to us in DNA.
Yeah.
So there's
It's
this the experiment. Do you know about the cherry blossom experiment with the rats?
Oh, I heard about it with the
Yeah.
sandalwood. With
Okay.
sandalwood. Yeah, but is that the same one?
Yeah, it's probably the same premise at least. They exposed rats to the scent of cherry blossoms at the same time that they ran electrical currents into their little paws.
Yeah,
And
unfortunately.
eventually the rats became to associate the smell of cherry blossoms with this discomfort and this uncomfortable feeling in their paws. So when they smell cherry blossoms, they run.
Right.
But their children who had never been exposed to the energetics in their paws or the energy in their paws had the same response to the smell of cherry blossoms.
Yeah, they were just conditioned to fear that they'd never been exposed to just
Yeah.
through ancestral DNA.
Mhm.
Is groundbreaking
Yeah.
studies, and you're right, it's a big deal, and it highlights that whole thing, I can feel, you know, myself thinking about things that have never applied directly in my life at times, and
Right.
I go, "Whoa, it's in the air," because I know my family's history at times. I
Mhm.
go, "Oh, isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting?" And also, I think it's so fascinating. Forgive me for jumping, so you can pull me back if you want. But it's related. It really goes hand in hand with mediumship
Oh,
because
yeah.
mediumship is all about ancestry. Like people come in, I'm sorry. Oh, your grandfather is making me understand that, there was a lot of difficulty at this time in their life. And those really poignant parts that the person receiving the
Yeah.
reading understands about grandma, grandpa, mom, dad, it created an energy trickle effect of why they are the way that they are most
Right.
times.
Exactly. I know of my mom's father who passed away in the 1980s. I know when he's around, I can smell his cigarette smoke. He used a very
Mm,
specific brand of cigarette tobacco, and I know that odor. So I know if he's about, or if I smell that smell, I know he's about. So yeah, speaking of how it extends into mediumship, and with root cause therapy, when we ask the question, did you gain this limiting belief before, during, or after birth? There have been times when we've gone into before birth, dropped into an event, and seen an ancestor, for example, my client's grandfather, who was having a difficult time speaking and relating to her as a child. Everyone else had gone out. The girl was left at home. She was home with grandpa, who was an alcoholic. and cranky. And she just had this sense that he didn't want her there anyway. So she developed an understanding and a belief that she was unwanted. But what that session turned into was working with grandpa on where he was and his emotional block toward having emotional relationships and conversations with people and relating truly to people that he cared for. So we went back and we healed grandpa. At the same time, we healed my client. So when you heal yourself, you heal your ancestors, and you also heal those who come after you.
Yes, it's just so deeply connected. I mean, when the matter of fact is, like, you're just in a room with somebody and you pick up energy. Imagine if you share their DNA.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a trip.
It's like before I understood who I was, I used to work in assisted living, and this is about the time I really came to understand how sensitive I was. Family members would come in and out to visit the residents of the facility, and I would just suddenly be bawling at my desk or angry or frustrated. Thank goodness for my coworker, because she said, I thought I was losing my mind. And I thought, well, if I go to the doctor, they're going to lock me up and they're going to put me on meds. No, I was just not aware that I needed to shield and keep myself from collecting the energies and the emotions of those other people in my space.
For real. And
was one of the basic things we learned when I started taking classes was put your bubble up, because you don't want to be absorbing other people's stuff all the time.
Yeah. I mean, especially in like places where there's high emotion, it depends, you know, where you are and what's the context. But I just know, you know, I'm thankful I haven't been to the emergency room too many times in my life, but the time that I have, you know, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm aware of all the emotion in this room, like the fear, the sadness, the just spirit. Like, I'm like, whoa, like, to work in this environment every day, you would really develop a certain understanding of energy in a vastly different way, because it's very palpable. It's like, I would imagine it just becomes part of what your senses are with dealing with people, with understanding things about people. It's because it's just so strong. And right, you're talking about, you're always having to establish your energy bubble. And I think that's something that's so it's so important, and it's overlooked so much, because even with people who do it, they're like, oh, I've just imagined like a protective barrier around me, or I just like ask for protection, or you know what I mean? And we take on so much that our bubble can get like, it can get just you know, I don't want to say cracked, but sometimes it can, you know, it can get just messy. It get, you know, and so it's like our bubble's there, but it's getting like rained on. It's getting like, you know, like battered. And it's just like, we have to fix the bubble. And sometimes it's multiple times a day. Sometimes it's multiple, you know, times an hour, depending on the situation, or even more so. But every day to check in with that bubble. And I really thought it was fascinating how you're like, sometimes I just wake up in the middle of the night, and I just change the energy with the sheets, and I do the salt baths. And so I haven't done that, but I go, oh, I get it, because when I come home, not always, but when I come home from like a reading or something, or even if I'm doing Zoom reading, I'll just change my clothes.
Right.
I'll just change. I'm like, I don't want to, or I will just take multiple showers, and because it's just like, it's held in the aura. And that's how I reestablish the bubble on a very mechanical level. Like, there's a way to do it on that level where you can just like really sit down with it. But there's like certain mechanisms where you're just like, it can't just be my thoughts. I have to do this for myself.
I need to do something concrete.
Yes.
Not energetic, but concrete.
Correct.
Keith is commenting on that too. He says, you know, he works with a lot of people, and when they're having a bad day, he has to be really careful not to pick it up or take it with him. Same situation. In fact, I've taught some of my coworkers, grab a little packet of salt from the deli, maybe 2, go in the bathroom, wash your hands with the salt. Okay, get your hands wet, pour that little salt packet in your hand. You get a really good exfoliation too when you do that.
Yeah, you will.
And just, wash that energy away, because salt just, cleans everything. What did your dentist tell you to do when you have a tooth infection? Rinse your mouth with
Gargle.
salt water.
Yeah,
Why?
it's throat
Because it's
water.
cleansing.
It's I mean, for me, like salt is just it's so powerful. Like I always have a salt lamp in here and like it
Yep.
doesn't even work. Like the lamp
Doesn't
doesn't even
matter.
work and I don't care. I just like the way it
Right.
smells and feels.
Yep. You need to have the salt in the space. Hey, Jesse Cat.
Hey,
It's
hey everyone. Yeah,
it's just
people are coming in
amazing.
like Aaron and Keith and
Yeah.
Jessica.
It's amazing how many different ways we can clear our own space or disconnect from the energies or emotions of someone else. Every once in a while, I'll just, you get hit with an emotion out of no place. It took me a long time to figure this out. When I get hit with an emotional shift, seemingly out of nowhere, and I'm thinking, well, what the heck just happened? Because I've got no reason to be sad. It's not mine. It's someone else's, and I can disconnect from it by like waving my hand like a knife across my emotional center and saying, no, this is not mine. I release you. Just a couple
Yeah,
times.
like
And
using
karate chop.
it feel no, yeah, it's like you have to like you use your hand to like siphon it off. It's real.
Yeah, which is what
Yeah.
we do in pranic healing. Exactly. Um, it doesn't have to be a grand gesture. It can just be super cash. Just kind of like, oh yeah, like maybe fanning yourself because you're a little warm, and it's done. But it's still a concrete action that you can take.
It's still concrete. Yeah. No, yeah. You need some of those concrete actions for real. It's very powerful. It amplifies it. Like the mind's very powerful, spirit's very powerful, but if you have that on board with some of the physicality, it's just your body is your body.
Right.
Like that's the whole thing. Like with energy healing, like you can work with the aura and what's like around the body, right? But
Mhm.
like the body's the body. It needs all these physical helpers. But I want to just like let people know too. We're talking so in flow, which is wonderful, that we have to put out there that we're gonna do some readings too,
It's
because
all
there's just so
over.
much to talk about. Yeah, yeah. So for anyone who is in, and I want to say hi to Christy and hi to B. We're taking like questions that you have about this work if you want to, or if you have like a question that you want us to just tap into. We're gonna be doing just like our feelings, so like psychic energy. We might do card pulls, we might do some numerology. So we're gonna just take like a couple to round off our time today. So if you want us to tune into something or if you want a specific question asked, just go ahead and do it. We'll take some questions right now to kind of warm up too. And these are more like how people are commenting and stuff.
Mhm.
And someone says, I've never heard of washing with salt. We'll
I saw that too.
definitely try it.
Yeah.
I have this spray. It's very gentle. It's sea salt, like aloe vera and vitamin E. And so
Ooh.
I use that as it's like it's a hand sanitizer, but it's just very
Mhm.
gentle, right? And so I'll use that a lot. And I will just feel like I'm clean. I'm clean. Because
Well,
sometimes
yeah.
you don't. You just feel like I need to just change how I feel with even my hands because our hands are so sensitive.
It's crazy. I think I will share, just because we're on the subject,
Please,
my favorite
please.
salt bath recipe that was given to
Yes.
me 20 years ago, and I still use it today.
Ooh.
Um, you're going to think I'm crazy, but it starts with a
No.
4-pound box of salt. And that's when I would do the cleansing. And
I don't think that's crazy. No.
that salt bath recipe was given to me when I was still bartending. But I
Mm.
still use it. I no longer bartend, but I still use
Even
it.
more so,
And
yeah.
in addition to a 4-pound box of salt, like just normal table salt, non-iodized table salt, canning and pickling salt works great. 20 drops of tea tree oil and 15 drops of lavender oil.
That makes sense.
The lavender for the soothing, the tea tree for the additional clearing. And then, of course, I soak from head to toe and that for at least 15, 20 minutes. And then I take a shower to rinse up all the salt water, put on my favorite lotion, jump in those clean sheets, and I am out like a light.
Wow. No, that makes sense. So, like, a lot of times people will recommend 1 to 2 cups for a foot. Usually it's like
Yeah,
1 cup for a foot bath, and that's 8 ounces, and like 16 ounces is a pound. And you're just timing that by 4, and you're using your whole body for it. Now, that is a lot of salt,
it
but
is.
it's nothing compared to like a float lounge. You know what I mean? It's
Always felt
nothing.
it's true. Yeah.
Yeah. A float lounge is like 2,000 pounds of salt, and you're floating. Yeah. Uh huh.
I like your
Yeah.
life.
But no, that's awesome. Like I want to try it actually now.
It's like having a flotation tank in your bathroom. Yes, the ocean, Courtney. That's why we all feel so much better when we walk on the beach. It's full of salt air. Yeah.
Super cleansing, super healing for your skin even. Just like if you're at the ocean, but of course if you're using salt. So let's see, any other someone mentioned something too as well. Um they're talking about salt again. I see and deal with a lot of people when they are having a bad day. I can feel it and try to remember not to take it home with me. I have 2 salt lamps, one by my bed and other by the door. Yeah, like more and more, I love salt so much. We're talking about salt a lot. Like I kind of want one in every room. I
Right.
maybe it's like excessive, but it's just because it feels so good. And it does so much stuff, everyone. Like not only does it cleanse the air, but it like clarifies your lungs. It even keeps like since it like pests don't like salt.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like on every level it's just cleanse, 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 cleanse.
I thought
We have
Keith had a really good question because we were talking
cool.
about ways to cleanse ourselves and clear our fields of debris that we pick up as we go on about our day. Keith's asking if sage works as well as salt. What do you think, Kelly?
I think that it works in a different capacity,
Mhm.
but I think that it still is a wonderful cleanser. Like for sage, I use that for like more of a spiritual cleansing or a vibrational cleanse because it changes the energy of the air. And there's sage is very purifying for how everything circulates. um, but I just think salt does more like physical purifying. But yes, it cleanses the aura, and you're gonna feel a different feeling with the sage cleansing and the salt cleansing. And then I encourage you to kind of do both and go like, oh, I feel like this versus I feel like this. So what do I need right now? What does it do for me? Um, I know that I definitely feel like lighter when I do the salt work. I just feel more I don't know how to describe it other than like I just feel lighter. I just am vibrating more with the salt. With the sage, I just feel like okay, it's almost like I'm expanded more, but I feel like I'm able to like open up a little bit more
Yeah.
easily, but the salt just kind of grounds me.
Yeah.
Like the salt just grounds me and just goes, ah, and the sage kind of goes, ah, like you know what I mean?
I like that. Yeah.
That's the only way I can give it kind of some justice. Vibrational differences. How about yourself?
Yeah. I think I would have to agree. I like the way you explain that. I use salt baths for me to clear my energy field, to put myself in more of a meditative state. Um, Sage I use for my home. I use for spaces versus people. Um, Now, when we would go into ceremony, we would sage the space and then we would sage each other as we walked into the room, head to toe, under the soles of our feet, all the way up our sides and around our armpits, any place energy might collect. But we'd already cleansed the space. So we didn't want to bring outside energies into that space that it was now that it's clear for ceremonial purposes. So I've used sage for both, but really more to me, it's for spatial clearing rather than myself.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that's kind of the biggest distinction. Um, yeah, people are just the salt, all the salt questions. I love my favorite salt. There's many different awesome salts out
Yeah.
there, but my favorite is Dead Sea salt.
Yes.
Um, I think it packs a little bit more of a mineral punch. Yeah, that's my favorite one. How about yours?
I would have to agree with you, although using a 4-pound box at a time in the tub, I go with canning and pickling, and I avoid the iodine that way. So
Yeah,
non-iodized table salt.
non-iodized table
Yeah.
salt. That makes sense. That makes sense. Okay. Do you like sea salt at all? Someone's asking about that. Salt's so important. I'm gonna keep
Oh, yeah.
asking for 2 seconds.
Oh, yeah, yeah. No, I saw Courtney was asking, I think. But yes,
Important.
I like sea salt tremendously. I agree with you. Um, but again, since I use such a quantity of it, if I'm
Yeah,
doing
no, when you use
if I'm doing just my hands, if I'm not at home, I'll grab whatever salt is available. Like if I'm in a restaurant, I may, skip off to the bathroom with the salt shaker, open it up, pour it in my hand. At work, I run by the deli, I grab a pack of salt. But if I'm at home, then oftentimes there's pink Himalayan salt available.
it's just, whatever like you gravitate to. I know that I like Epsom salt, sure, but I don't think it just packs as the same type of punch as Dead Sea salt. So I'll get the Dead Sea salt in like these big, like 5 pound
Yeah.
quantities, and 1 cup of that is equal to like 4 cups of. I'm just it feels completely different, and it's like with Dead Sea salt, I just use less and I get more benefit. But yeah, if you want a 4 pound bath, that's a different story, right? I love that.
Yeah, man. Hey,
Okay, so let's like open up the energy in a way for readings. If you gravitate towards anyone, Deidre, go and get them and just
go
bring them
get 'em.
in. I'm gonna go look the same. I'm gonna open up to as well. So let's see. I'm gonna just choose
Open up a
whoever I
little bit
choose.
further. I was kind of looking at Miss Erin who popped in, wanting to know if we have a message from her guides.
Okay, go for it. Yes.
Um, Initially, Erin, when I reached out to you, it feels like you've got some really strong, supportive family and friend relationships around you. It feels like things are going well that way. Um, Home seems to be pretty calm. I mean, not out. There's normal, not chaos, but some normal type of stress and some tensions, but those seem to be easily resolved in some great communications in that respect. I'm not seeing anything that feels heavy or yucky at work, but I'm wondering if you're considering making a change. And I haven't seen yet whether that's taking a different position in your current workplace, like a promotion. Feels more like stepping up. So I don't know if that's in the current workplace or in a different workplace. And I feel like there's an opening for you energetically in respect to your work. And it's a positive direction. It's not a backslide or a different change. And it feels really good. It may take some time to roll it all out. Like there's still some questions on it. So all the information you don't have yet, but it's looking like something you're super interested in. And my thought on that is jump in, dive in, and get all the questions answered because it feels really good.
So, yeah, there's emphasis around career. I think she has a lot of flexibility and options, but
Mhm.
it's like when I think about career, sometimes I think about like vocation too. Like, what do I want to do with my life? Like, some people are in career because they're like, they have to be there. And other people are like, I want to devote my life to something I believe in.
Mhm.
And so I'm feeling like this flexibility with her of how she will devote her time and her life. And I do feel like, times are changing, things are a little bit rough. And it's just a matter of just believing and keeping on track and keeping going, and to have even more of that flexibility open up. I just keep it's almost like I keep like stroke when I'm thinking about her, like I keep stroking my hands and I'm looking at my fingernails and like they're painted, and it's just like it's kind of like when I do that sometimes, or if I see other people doing that sometimes, it's like my sign for I'm a little stressed right now and I'm just kind of like waiting, and I know what I want, but like it's not coming,
Mhm.
or it's like let go of the exact plan, let go of the
Right.
exact way that you're seeing it, and it's just kind of like go out there and like live, and you were talking about like just go out there and kind of shake things up a little bit. And I think that's what it needs to be. It's like everything is coming together. She's a very strong will. Like, so that's what I think. She's a very strong will. She pulls things to her. And right now the timeline's a little wonky. And it's like, it's going to sort itself out. You have to break up the energy, because if it's too thick, you're just going to stress yourself out. And then that's just even more just weight on your shoulders. And I feel like I'm just stressed out with the energy, and it's kind of affecting my health too. I'm just like, that's not the way, girlfriend. That's not the way. Like, have fun, have the faith. And even if, the evidence right in front of you is like, yeah, have fun, have the faith. What? Like, you have to believe that strong, and like, stop stressing yourself out. The reason I'm saying that way, stop stressing yourself out, is because it's going to put an ease on your health. You're going to just feel better. I want you to feel better as we're talking about these things, and this year, the way that it's going for you. And so that's what's coming up.
When you say you're seeing her hands and her polished nails, to me, that was a little bit of hand wringing, struggling with the decision. And I pulled a card from the Messenger of Spirit deck. It's the Deer card. And I love it because it says, slow down and give yourself grace. We've already talked about, there's some wonky stuff. The world is in an interesting place right now. It may not all happen overnight, but it also doesn't have to be perfect. When you're ready, it's ready. And it'll roll itself out. Sure, there are going to be little things that pop up and trip you up, but that's where the faith and the trust comes in, and you get to reorganize it the way you want it. Did you see the comment? She's looking at working for herself.
Yeah. And that makes sense to me. I was feeling an aspect of it. So that's kind of where that's like validation for how I'm feeling. Sometimes we feel things where we're like, oh, I'm aware of aspects, right? But that's validation for how I'm feeling. I do think that is so relevant for you to work for yourself. I do think the time is a little wonky. So it's like, continue to find ways where you have one more piece of the puzzle, but don't be looking for it like head on. Just go, let me look at some locations. Let me kind of take some classes, or let me what happens when I kind of do more of this and see how life meets you. Because it's like, the plan for me is a little bit too rigid, and I need you to have more like, oh, now I get it. And I got a card too associated with this. It's the tearing apart card. So it's letting me know that you have to let go of the way you once lived life to make room for like this new ambition. And it's going to cause some uncomfortability before it locks into place and you're like, I'm ready now. So it's like, you have to redo the way that you have to say goodbye to things. And saying goodbye to things might mean you just have more energy because you've let go of some dead weight people, or there's some things that you've been doing and now you have more money to allocate it for this. It's like, you kind of have to reconfigure your life. And that feels very stressful to me, but it feels very positive. Okay.
Now I'm laughing because I'm sitting here shuffling and the divine timing card came up. It says, let go of your timeline. Spirit has plan.
Yeah. So I like it. I like the whole working for yourself thing. It feels very powerful. It feels very positive. It's just, if you find that things are going kind of crazy while you're doing it, I think that's your validation that you're just completely changing your energy so you can just be this powerful woman, this powerful woman on the next phase of you. It's just heads up when I say that. Okay. So that's what I'm getting.
Very cool.
I love it. And I got a lot of time cards for her too. You got like the divine timing. I got like the time game. I got times are changing. And I always get those cards where it's like, look, the conditions are working themselves out.
Right.
Yeah. It's coming. It's working itself out. Okay. So she's like, spot on. Thank you both. That's really, always like to see that, right? Hey, let's see. I'm gonna take Jessica would love a message, please. Thank you, girls. So let's pull.
Oh, I have a different deck calling me for you, Miss Jessica.
Hey. Okay, so with Jessica, I'm in a card mood today until I'm not, right? Um
Right?
it's yeah, it's whatever you're vibing and feeling. Um the number one card that just hit me over the head with you is like you need to have fun. Like please. Uh like they're just fun. Assert yourself with what your wants are, what your needs are. It's like you know how to have fun, but it's like that you're not, like sometimes, like, how can I put it? This is like this example that's coming into my life. I might have a day off, or I might have like a couple hours off before I have to do something, right? And I'll be like, maybe I'll play like a video game, or maybe I'll go for a walk. And then I just won't do it because I'm so anxious of what I have to do in a couple of hours, or I'm so
Right.
exhausted that I'll just kind of sit and I'll just be like, this isn't how I want to be using my time. And I'm actually not like restored on a happiness level, but I'm just so tired. So, yeah, it's like kind of like pushing past that and just being like, I need a little bit of it, even, or at the end of my day, if I couldn't get it a couple hours ago, I have to make sure I go for that walk, or I have to make sure I, um, cook that food that I've been craving, or, it's like whatever you've been like itching to have, it's like we need to get that in you, girl. Like, you know what I mean? Like make the space for it. It's good for your soul. It helps like lighten the mood. And so I got the Let It Be Known card and the Spiritual Force card. So it's like the Let It Be Known card is all about asserting your needs. Okay. We're coming back with that. Asserting like this is who I am and it's just the way that it is, or like this, I just need this, okay. And I got the Spiritual Force card, and that goes with everything that I'm saying. It's like to be in alignment with your spirit, you have to be in your joy and you have to be in your power, and you got to assert it. You're so powerful. Assert, even if there's resistance, assert. Okay.
I think it's funny because I got something that might be considered to be a little different. Not a lot. The only card that I pulled was the Surrender Your Desire to Control People. And really, when I put that together with everything that Kelly's already said, it makes me wonder how many people you've actually been able to bring in who are already in alignment with some of the things that you want to go do that are fun. Because it feels like maybe there's some frenetic energy that's getting you to go do stuff that's really okay, fine, I'll go because I want to get out and I want to have a good time, but it's not passionate for you. That's something that your heart's really into. I think there's some other people that maybe you don't see often enough, that want to do some of the same things that really light your fire.
Yeah.
So
It's like I just wanna get her out and smiling, like, more, like, on this, like, sometimes we like stuff and we're like, "Yeah, this is nice," but, like, it's a different level when we're just like, "Oh, like, my soul needed this." And, like, you're just, like,
yeah,
laughing uncontrollably, like, just yeah, like, I need you more in places like that.
the control, surrender your desire to control people was really more like, okay, I can we just, I hear you want to go do something, but can we just go do this instead? It's like you keep not trying to control them, so to speak, but controlling some of the activity. And I think that's part of your tiredness sometimes is you're given in to go out and do something that pleases other people. And yeah, it's fun for you, but it's not fulfilling for you. Try to create some of that extra space to do things that are special to you. You
It's
can do
making
both.
me think as you're saying that, Deidre, it's making me think of kind of sometimes someone will suggest like a restaurant, like family or friends, and I will be in my soul, I'm just like, ugh. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not just
Yeah.
like vibing that, or another activity. And sometimes there's been times where I just don't say anything because I'm like, it makes them happy. But then when we're both at that activity or that place, you can tell like it was a suggestion. It wasn't because the friend was like, "Oh my god, I need this," right?
Right.
And so when you infuse kind of like, "Actually, this feels better," your friend goes, "Huh, yeah, sure, let's try it," and then you're both happier. But that's kind of some
Yeah.
vibration that I'm getting for.
My, my,
Um,
my last shuffle for Jessie Cat was surrender to passion.
mm,
What else can I tell
yeah,
you?
yep, 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 yep. I'll just
Enough
keep
said.
saying yep over and over again. Cool. I love it. Kara loves it too. That's awesome. And then Chris is talking about woo, video games. Yes, video games are amazing. Not everyone
Oh yeah.
plays them, but for the people that do, it's just like a moving storybook. How fun is that?
Black
Um,
Ops used to be like a meditative state for me.
really?
'Cause
Whoa,
yeah,
whoa,
because I'm
whoa.
like robotically shooting all these people and diving and hiding behind cars, but the rest of my brain is off doing something else altogether. Murder and mayhem was my escape. Yeah.
Wait. You played like Call of Duty?
I used to play Black Ops. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Wow. That's amazing. I mean, I like games with strategy, right? And like, intense themes too. If it's like strategy to get. Wow. Okay. Cool. I'll have to ask about that sometime. That is amazing. I love it. Okay. Shout out to video games. Okay. You're next. Is there anyone you
Oh
want to
boy.
take really quick as we close up the show?
Oh boy. You're welcome, Jessie Cat. Thanks for giving us the opportunity. Kind of lost track.
I love Mario. She says that's amazing. I love it. Wow. Like I am just in awe of how mainstream video games are now. Like it's amazing. I'm sorry. Like I shouldn't be surprised, but I am like talking about like you said Black Ops, Mario. Like it's just it's fun. It's just fun. Okay.
I grabbed Keith and his question out here because he kind of jumped out at me. Keith,
Girl
are
gamers
you
night.
focusing way too hard on these things you want to change? The question is, I'm working on myself and starting to work on the real hard things. Any ideas that might make it a bit easy on me? Did you just pluck these things out of thin air that you think you need to work on? Or did you get drawn to work on certain things? That's my first question for you.
My question comes in as you're pulling cards. Just let me know. If you want to just jump in here, but I see the two words jump up on the screen and they're really hard. I'm working on really hard things. And then he talks about, is there a way for it to be easy? So that immediately lets me know he's in conflict with how, he's like easy, hard. And you have to surrender to the energy of this is difficult and it's okay. It's to have ease in the difficulty. And to have this surrender of knowing that you're going to be guided okay and you're going to be shown the way, and the difficulty is the uncharted territory of it. You're like, I haven't dealt with something quite like this. I have no idea where to begin, and this is very taxing and emotional, and you're going to have so much satisfaction for putting yourself in that environment because I just see you as a person who finds victory. And especially when you invite spirit to come and, give you that extra support. So I do think that this is a calling for you to understand how powerful you are. So that's just one part that comes up. You go for it, Deidre.
No, it's awesome. I got two. I got one from the Messenger of Spirit deck, and it's the channeler. And really, it's about your body's intuitive. Listen to it. Tie that to surrender your fear of change. And sometimes that can be what makes the work feel hard, is we're afraid of not carrying this stuff with us that we've been carrying for so long because it's become a part of our identity. And the question becomes, who am I going to be on the other side of this work? I'm not sure I know. I'm not sure I'm ready for the answer, but doing the work is what facilitates change. They're intricately tied. And that's why I started by asking, okay, did you just pull something out of thin air you thought you wanted to work on? Or did you feel your way into something to work on? And that works with the channeler. When you pick something that you want to work on, ask your body, hey, body, I'm thinking about working on this. How does your body feel? Does it feel tight? Do you shrink in constriction? double check that one. Is it resistance or is it body saying, I'm not ready? Because resistance you can work with. But if your body is like digging its heels into the ground and refusing to move, maybe there's something else to work on first that will release the really dark, deep roots of the other thing first. It's all layered together. You can pick and choose.
When you picked the channeler card, I immediately was like, oh, like he's a channel. He's a channel, and he is. It's just it's an invitation. It's an invitation to receive these pieces of guidance where I just think in the uncertainty of it all, you're going to hear deeper, you're going to feel deeper, you're going to see deeper, and you're going to be just reminded of, whoa, okay, this is exactly where I need to be. Like, I have to go through my problems. I have to go through this uncertainty. And the reason it's so scary is because you haven't done this before in this way, right? As Keith. So, you come out on the other side as somebody different with new understandings, and you like the old Keith or the changing Keith is like, I don't normally do it this way. I've never done it this way before, and so I don't know how to do it. But that's great, because as you get into the new vibration, the new, this more evolved Keith, you go, yeah, the more evolved Keith definitely knows how to do it. And that confidence and that enthusiasm, that is palpable, like all around you. So that's just how I'm feeling as I'm just talking, and she's pulling the channeler card she pulled is so powerful. And I feel like you're locked in and loaded, and you have all this like blue energy. Like, you're going to get the blue energy is validation for you. I'm just going to say it like that. Blue energy is validation for you. So you're going to know what that means. And I'm going to give it to you with that. So, okay. Anything more okay. So I think that's, unless you want to pull one card for somebody at random before we go. Sometimes I like to just go, hey, I'll pull one for, where is I like to end with like Stephanie. I'm gonna pull one for Stephanie. You can pull for, or this might be the last, whatever your spiritual force. So I got the spiritual force card for Stephanie. When the cards jump, they're for you. And this is all about, going back to your spiritual well for your power. There are times within my life where I forget, like, to call for help. I forget to consult and pray and go, hey, I really need guidance like this. I really need to have my mind elevated and cleared, because the way that I'm seeing it, I am really doing the work. I am really wrestling it, but for some reason I just can't see it. And so I ask to see with different eyes. I ask with grace to have shine on me a different way, where I could never see it within my own brain or my soul's capacity, just myself. It's the universe's and God's capacity. So that's coming in rich, like a warm, nourishing fire, to give you the warmth on the journey. So that's what I say.
Nice.
All right. With that said, keep saying thank you so much. I've been working on my spiritual progress. Keep going and look for those rich blues. Keith, I'm going to say it like that. And Deidre, thank you so much for being here. Before we go, I do one of two things. I ask, what do you have going on? Where can people find you? And I also ask for you to share a parting wisdom. So,
well, I can always be found at my website, which is my name, DeidreLsanford, as in David.com. Root cause therapy and readings as well on the website. You can schedule right there. Coming up in April, we have an event in Wisconsin called Spirits in the Spring. Lots going on at that event. Lots and lots. It's going to be a fantastic Paracon. All you have to do is jump on Facebook and look at Spirits in the Spring. It's a one-day event, April the 22nd. I will be reading there. And then I got some things coming up later in the fall. I'm going to be at the Illuminate Naperville Festival in Lisle, Illinois. And then I'm going to be headed down to Bloomington, Normal in Illinois as well. So I'll be doing reading, and I'll also be doing workshops at those two events.
Nice. It always like blows my mind that you're so close. That's like, my hometown. I just go,
Yeah.
oh yeah, that's right. It's so cool.
As soon as I said Naperville, I kind of figured your eyes were going to pop open. Yeah.
Like,
So-
I already know this, but then it's just like, I don't know. It takes me back to reality.
It makes me laugh. It's called Illuminate Naperville, but it actually takes place in Lisle, at the hotel in Lisle.
Oh, wow.
Whatever. It works. It's fine. It's all on the border.
Cool. That's cool. And what is a parting wisdom that you want to share with everybody here today?
Since it popped into me as I was listening to you do the intro, I know I said it once already, but I'm going to say it again, maybe because I need to hear it. You never know. What came in for me was let go of expectations, your own perception of self, and those expectations put on you by society. Very simply put, follow your gut.
Follow your gut. And just as you're talking, I'm thinking about like shedding, so we can follow our gut.
Love it.
I love it. Thank you so much, Deidre.
Thanks for having me on, Kelly.
Oh, it was a blast. Thank you everyone for being with us. We will see you on Friday for our reading show. And with that said, I want to wish everyone a fantastic day. Please go with luck, love, light, and laughter. And don't forget to live. Thanks again for Deidre for being here today. Take care, everybody. Bye.
The truth is here and now on WLTK-DB Talk Radio at WLTK-DB.com.